Chapter 1 of the History of Miss Betsy Thoughtless, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Michele Eaton. The History of Miss Betsy Thoughtless, Volume 2, by Eliza Haywood. Chapter 1 will satisfy the reader's curiosity in some points and increase it in others. Though Mr. Goodman, under whose care and in whose house Miss Betsy had been for upwards of a year, knew much more of that young lady's humour and disposition than Mr. Chaffrey, who saw her but seldom, could possibly do, and could not be brought to think as he did, that the merits of Mr. Trueworth had made any effectual impression on her heart. Yet he imagined that to propagate such an opinion in Mr. Staple would conduce very much to persuade him to break off his courtship, which was a thing very much desired by Mr. Goodman, as he was certain the continuance of it would be attended with almost insurmountable difficulties, and create many vexations and disputes when Mr. Francis Thoughtless came to town. The two old gentlemen went on together, discoursing on this affair, till they came to the lodgings of Mr. Staple, where they found him sitting in an easy-chair, leaning on a table, with papers and a standish before him. They perceived he had been writing, for the pen was not out of his hand when they entered the room. He threw it down, however, as soon as he saw them, and rose to receive them with a great deal of politeness, though accompanied with an air which, in spite of his endeavours to conceal it, discovered he laboured under an extraordinary dejection of spirits. "I am glad," said Mr. Chaffrey, pointing to the pen, "to see you are able to make use of that weapon, as I feared your arm had been too much prejudiced by another." "I have found some difficulty indeed in doing it," replied the wounded gentleman, "but something which seemed to me a case of necessity obliged me to exert my utmost efforts for that purpose." After the first civilities were over and they were all seated, Mr. Goodman and Mr. Chaffrey began to open the business upon which they came. Mr. Goodman represented to him in the most pathetic terms the deep concern he had been in for having ever encouraged his addresses to Miss Betsy, and excused himself for having done so by his ignorance at that time that Mr. Trueworth had been previously recommended by her brother. He then gave him some hints that the civil ties Miss Betsy had treated him with, he feared, were rather owing to that little vanity which is generally the companion of youth and beauty, than to that real regard which his passion and person merited from her, and said he heartily wished to see him withdraw his affections from an object where he could not now flatter him with the least hope of a suitable return. "No, no," cried Mr. Chaffrey, interrupting him hastily. "You may take my word, she is as much in love as a girl of her temper can be with Mr. Trueworth, and I do not doubt but you will all see the effects of it as soon as her brother comes to town." Mr. Goodman on this took an opportunity of telling Mr. Staple that the ascendant that young gentleman had over his sister, and the zeal he expressed for the interest of his friend, would certainly go a great way in determining the point, and added that if it were true, as his friend suggested, that she had really an inclination for Mr. Trueworth, she would then avow it and make a merit of it to her brother, as if done merely in regard to him. Many other arguments were urged by these two gentlemen in order to convince Mr. Staple of the little probability there was of succeeding with Miss Betsy, all which he listened to attentively, never interrupting what either of them said, till perceiving they had ended all they had to offer on the subject, he made them this reply. "Gentlemen," said he, "I am infinitely obliged to you both for this visit, and the friendly purpose of it, which I perceive was to give me that advice which you might reasonably think I wanted. I have heard, and I believe have not lost one word, at least I am sure no part of the meaning of what you have delivered. I own there is great justice in everything you have alleged, and am pleased to think the arguments you bring are such as before your coming here I had myself brought against the folly of my own unhappy passion for Miss Betsy. But, gentlemen, it is not that I am capable of being deterred from prosecuting it by anything I might have to apprehend either to her own inclinations or her brother's persuasions, but for other reasons, which at present perhaps you may be ignorant of, yet are such as to conceal I should but half be just. Be pleased, sir," continued he, addressing himself to Mr. Goodman, and giving him a paper, "to read that letter and see what my resolutions are and the motives I have for them." Mr. Goodman was beginning to look over the paper, but Mr. Staple requested he would read it aloud, as he desired that Mr. Chaffrey should be partaker of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?